Yo, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Second video of the day. You're gonna watch me finish my second page of my comic book while I talk about the amazing, the phenomenal. I think it's the final episode of Invincible this season. I just really great stuff. Really amazing stuff. Really, it's a lesson in story writing. Is a lesson in well crafted superhero narrative. I can't believe how great it is. Um, yeah, I want to talk about a couple of things regarding this great episode eight of Invincible. Of course, we all know what it's being coming up to, what it's being building up to, right? I mentioned during my very first review of the first three episodes of Invincible that the bomb, we've been, as an audience, we've been informed about the bomb that's under the table, right? A suspense creating tool, which is Omni-Man, and that bomb has finally gone off. It has exploded. It has exploded in such a big way. It's exploded all over our faces, all over the city, the world of Invincible. Just so great. And just as resonant and powerful and emotionally resonant and powerful as I suspected it would be. I'll get back to that. Now, with regard to me finishing the second page of my comic book here, this is what the page is looking like so far, right? So I'm on the final panel, and so Michael's in pain. You know, they have an argument. Michael's in pain. He holds his head, falls to the ground, and so in this final panel, I'm going to illustrate Michael writhing in pain. Right, so he's on the floor writhing in pain. So that's my goal for this panel. All right, so I'm just gonna put him dead center. We don't want that. I'm going to create a clear line of action, and of course, we have problems with that, don't we? Clear line of action. That's way too big. Where he's in the fetal position. Okay. Yeah. So, Invincible. This episode, and so far during the whole season, it's done so many things right that a lot of the big, more popular superhero content we've received out there, have failed to achieve. Especially like in the DC universe. And since Thanos, right? Since Thanos, I don't think we have experienced a more formidable foe, formidable villain since Thanos, in Omni-Man, right? So Omni-Man is just he's just become one of the greatest superhero villains of all time, supervillains of all time, because of what he brings to the table, and given the fact that he's vastly different from Thanos, well, in the sense that the emotional resonance we're receiving from the conflict in Invincible comes from a very personal place, and not just on a global scale that he is an invader like Thanos, who he is. Unlike Thanos, he's not looking to destroy half the population. Not completely, because that is also a characteristic of Omni-Man's personality, but he is it's the most important part, the most emotionally resonant factor concerning Omni-Man is his relationship with his son, right? As a dramatic show, as a dramatic written story, what we're looking forward to, dreading as well as anxiously looking forward to, right? Like, you're watching something great where you don't want this to happen, but you can't wait to see it. It's like you can't take your eyes away from a train wreck. Is his connection to his son, right? So apart from his global machinations, the Viltrumine and Omni-Man, apart from all that, the most emotionally resonant aspect of him is um, the final conflict. How with his son? How is his son going to deal with finding out what his father really is? Right. I said that in my very first review of the show, and that chicken has come home to roost in a big way in episode 8. So that complexity, so he has the Thanos thing going for him, because in this episode we also learned that the Viltrumites aren't just doing this to Earth or any other planets they consider weaker. They did this to themselves, just like Thanos. They wiped out half the population of the Viltrumites, with the argument being, the justification being that they are wiping out the weak, which resulted in half of the Viltrumite population being massacred in an amazing scene, in an amazing montage. I just love the art style and the animation of this show. Just great stuff. Great stuff. So we get that very Thanos, inspired. I don't know. Invincible existed after Marvel's Infinity War. That's the comic book version, right? So the comic book version of Infinity War has been around for quite a while. But I'm pretty sure Robert Kirkman did not write Invincible before Marvel explored the Infinity Saga, right? The Infinity Gauntlet Saga that the movie is based on. So it may have been inspired by that. But it's so much more here because of the relationship he has with his son, because of the fact that he created a human, right? And so he has this attachment which escalates the emotional resonance, the emotional impact of the final conflict, of the choice he has to make eventually, when he has to reveal to his son that he is not the man he thinks he is. He is a conqueror. It just amps up the drama. It completely amps up the drama. I have to remember here to sketch, not draw. I'm dwelling way too much, but I'm also trying to, talk. So that's kind of complicating things. So there's just so much going on with Omni-Man that, just as I said before, makes him one of the greatest villains, supervillains we have experienced in this age of superhero content, right? I feel he has more relatability than Thanos because of his human son, right? There's more stakes, there's more at stake, right? And this episode does such a great job, oh my God, of just raising the stakes and more importantly, depicting the cost of Omni-Man's choice, and thereby showing Invincible, Mark Grayson, the truth, the reality of his situation. Aristotle said, with regard to writing and the three act structure, which is very hard for me to understand, but as I studied more, I came to understand what this means, and it's very hard when I explain this to other people, to my friends who are writing, or when we get to talking about this nerdy stuff, and I explain to them what the three act structure really is, and I'll explain it to you guys. According to Aristotle, a character does something 3 times, right? The first day, he does something. The second day he does it, and usually in a story, that's that person's job. But on the third day, the person realizes the truth of his circumstances. So he's been living a lie beknownst to him all along. So all along, Invincible has been living this life thinking his father is a superhero. But in the third act, which is the final end, the closing episodes of this season, right? He realizes the truth of his circumstance. This is a characteristic of really great story writing. He realizes that, no, his father is not a hero. His father is the ultimate villain, the ultimate threat to humanity, right? 3 days, 3 act structure. You're doing something. You think you know what the world is. That's the first act. The second act, things are complicated. Things are not as easy as they appear to be. And by the third act, the character, the protagonist, realizes the truth of his circumstance. This is written since ancient times. This is Aristotle's words. These are Aristotle's words, and the poetics, right? The elements to successful narrative writing, and we just got it here. And add Hitchcock to that. The bomb underneath the table. We were introduced to the bomb right at the very beginning. We all knew that Omni-Man was a motherfucker because he killed the Guardians of the Globe. So we all knew. The audience knew, but nobody else knew. Cecil and Detective Demon, love that character. They all suspect. Detective Demon knew. They all suspected, and Cecil suspected, but nobody else knew except for the audience. So we were introduced to the bomb underneath the table, and the suspense comes from the fact that we know that bomb is going to go off, but we just don't know when. And now that bomb has gone off. Just Invincible is a masterclass. It's a masterclass. Robert Kirkman. So considering all the reasons I just talked about, in my opinion, it makes Omni-Man one of the greatest supervillains ever created. Ever created. Unbelievable. Tying his global and galaxy-dominating machinations with his personal circumstance. Even though he claims that he's not, he's loyal to Viltrum. He's a real Viltrumite officer, so he doesn't care about the human circumstance. Something this entire episode explores as he rams Invincible, Mark Grayson's head and body, and pulverizes and puts him through other human beings. Like this episode was all about showing Omni-Man's conviction and ultimately the lack thereof. Because spoiler alert, he takes off. But I'm sure that's not the last of Omni-Man we're gonna see. This episode was just amazing. Same with the previous episode, episode 7. I was just at the edge of my seat, right? And I've watched a lot of YouTube creators talking about this. I watch I don't know if you folks are familiar with the YouTuber Altieri. It's this girl who talks about nerdy stuff like I do. And I believe she's an artist herself because you don't actually see her human face. She uses a black fox as her avatar. And she made a video about how Invincible is stressing her out, which shows you the effectiveness, like the fact that this story it's a successful story, very successful story. Now, going back to what I talked about, what I mentioned earlier on, that Invincible achieves what a lot of major studio superhero releases are attempting to do these days, which is, don't like that. Let's take, which is properly depict stakes and drama while balancing the whole superhero thing, which can be very outlandish, very goofy, and sometimes very difficult to take seriously. Invincible completely achieves this. So let's consider Man of Steel, okay? Let's consider, because, yeah, it's laughable. Man of Steel is laughable compared to this stuff, man. Oh, my God. Like, if they ever want to do the bad Superman thing, like, this is the ultimate template. This is the ultimate template right here. So Man of Steel has this sequence where Superman and what's his name? Zod, General Zod, right? They have this epic showdown, right? And they completely destroy half of Metropolis. And everybody was complaining about, oh my God, like this wanton destruction, like, was that necessary? Like, that was a very big discussion when Man of Steel was released. Like, man, like that seemed a little excessive, a little indulgent. And yes, it felt that way. I didn't really care, but it just felt like it just felt like it did feel indulgent. But in this final episode of Invincible, I'm not sure if it's the final, but whatever. In this episode 8 of Invincible, we get that. We see Omni-Man, and you can see that the writers and the producers are making it a point to show you that Omni-Man, with this conflict, it's a one-sided beating. Like, he's just destroying Invincible. They're showing you that Omni-Man does not care about the human race. So they're going from locale to locale. I'm talking about Invincible gets an ass kicking all over the globe. All over the globe. And it's wanton destruction. Scratch that. It's not wanton at all. It's justified because Omni-Man is making a point. Right? Something that was not achieved at all with Man of Steel. You know, so people had the right to complain about, man, like this, what's the point of all this destruction? You know, and Zack Snyder made the excuse that he wanted to show what it would really be like if two superpowered people were fighting. Justified. Did he achieve it? Yeah, okay. On a superficial level, yes. The destruction was on a level hither to none. Right? Just crazy destruction. But it completely lacked emotional weight because you weren't seeing the people getting killed. You know, you weren't seeing the cost of that destruction. And you might argue that, yes, you did, but it wasn't as effective as what was pulled off in Invincible. Holy crap, do you feel the cost? Because Mark Grayson, Invincible is used as an audience proxy. He is our vehicle through this episode where we experience the cost of two gods fighting. Oh my God. They show children getting murked. They show women getting murked. They show everybody gets destroyed. Buildings collapsing. And then, you know, we see Mark trying to save people and failing. And then his father literally picking up his head and rubbing his face in it. Oh man. I would love to see a live action movie of this, bro. Like, if only any of the superhero movies could achieve that, right? Some of them do. Like the Marvel movies, especially with the Infinity Saga, they do get there. They do. You feel the weight, right? With the snap, and then you feel the reason why they have to go back in time to save everybody. But here, it's so visceral within this 50-minute episode. Oh my God, do you feel the cost? Do you feel the cost? Like, you're scared for humanity. You're like, holy shit, I hope Omni-Man just takes pity on us. Oh my God. Yeah. Great episode. Loved it. What else did I want to talk about with regard to this amazing show? This show has been great from start to finish. From episode 1, it's been amazing. It's been really amazing. I've loved it from episode 1. Oh, we need to talk. And you know, I was going to do a review of the whole season, but of course, laziness and just lack of motivation. You know, I didn't do any of that, but I've enjoyed every episode of Invincible. Every single episode of Invincible. Especially the last 3 episodes have been amazing, building up to this amazing climax. Holy crap. I really loved, I think it was episode 6 or something, where, you know, the big black guy who hardens up his body, you know, that episode where he asks Invincible for help, you know, to help save his family. That was a masterpiece of an episode. That is what it means to subvert expectations, because you don't expect the big meathead muscle guy to be intelligent. You don't see that coming. And this motherfucker played everybody. And the sad thing about it is, and just that's what complicates Invincible and makes it just such a chunky affair, is that his father warned him, like, yo, this motherfucker is just using you. He is just using you. Don't fall for it. And as an audience member, I was like, man, screw your dad. He's an asshole anyway, because you've seen him kill a bunch of people, so you don't want to listen to him as an audience member. But he was right. This guy was just using him. So, and that episode cost Invincible quite a bit, and it also cost the new Guardians of the Globe, his team members, quite a bit. They almost die, on the verge of death, right, as they come to aid Invincible, you know, in that fight, because, you know, I'll summarize. So in that episode, I can't remember what that guy is. So the big black guy who was the muscle for a mobster, is trying to free himself from the clutches of his boss. You know, the age-old thing of I'm going to use you. You can't escape from me because I know where your family live. So you have to work for me forever. So he's trying to free himself from that burden. So he asks Invincible for help, not knowing, we had no idea that he was just playing us. He wanted the organization for himself. Unbelievable, great twist, great twist, and they also elicit our sympathy, our empathy, by showing his wife and kid, and his wife is angry at him. And, they show a scene where she asks him, "Is it done?" And he says no, like, this is hard. So you feel as though, yeah, she wants this to be over with. She just wants a regular life. But at the end of everything, after he has set up Invincible and managed to get Machine Head, that's the name of his boss, out of the way, she shows up and she's cool. She's like, "Yes, you did it, hon. Good job. You're a huge mob boss now. Let's go, baby." So, that just cemented the theme of that episode. The misdirection. Masterful episode. This show has been great from start to finish. Love it, love it, love it. So it's just such a great world. It's such a great template with regard to how to write a good superhero story. Loved it. So so there's a lot of excitement that's been built for what's going to come next, and it's not going to be good, and they've done such a good job that you just can't wait to see, how Mark grows and how his strength develops, right? Because he gets stronger, and the thing about it is, it's not based his ability and his ability to prevail isn't dependent on his superpowers. Is dependent on his willpower and the choices he makes, right? And what he's willing to sacrifice for the things he believes in, which makes for a great superhero. Very Spider-Man like, right? Very Spider-Man like. So this is pretty good, and I dwell way too much in this drawing. Like, that's spent way too much time on this particular drawing. So let's give him a backpack. He's writhing in pain. That works for me. I really need to blast through these drawings because this is just not even half the work. This is like a third of the work because after all this is said and done, these page layouts and panel sketches, eventually I have to come back in here and draw and probably do the proper line art for them. So that's why I wanna be able to get this done as quick as possible. So here we go. We've got Michael in pain. So this is a little too big, so I'm gonna cut it up and minimize it like I usually do to fit it into that panel a lot better. And then I'm gonna start working on Don, who is over him, freaking out, wondering what's wrong with his buddy. What did I do here? Yeah. That works. Okay. So now let's draw Don kneeling over him, wondering what's wrong. Where did I draw Don before? Just so everything is kind of consistent. So Don is on his. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna draw Don over here. Let's move you up a little bit. Don't like that. Another thing this show does very well is, even though things might be very dire within the story, like crazy shit happening, it still manages to pull off levity, right? Especially through Mark's friends, right? Somehow they manage to make things a little funny despite dire circumstances. Great. Great show. Really love. As I said, I'm learning a lot from this show. It's a great class for good superhero narrative writing. Okay. Don't like the way that's looking. Don't like it at all. But thankfully, this is on another layer. So I'm gonna move you forward a little bit because I don't. Whatever. Don't like the way this stuff is looking here. Let's do this here. Give him some space to work. Son, we need to talk. Never a good sign. It's like when your girlfriend says that as well. Honey, we need to talk. But usually it doesn't imply that, hey, your girlfriend or your dad or mama's about to tell you that they're some motherfuckers and they're about to take over the world. Poor Mark. And it's just so amazing how a cartoon pulls this off. It makes you really feel for these animated characters. Great job. Okay. Okay, let's do this here. There we go. Not super happy about it, but it's good enough. It's good enough for my sketch. It's good enough for as I said before, to set up what I'm going to do later on. And I just want to get this page done. What's happening with those hips? Okay. And I think we need to blow up our boy here a little bit because he's way too small now, and he's generally bigger than Dawn. All right, that's looking good. That's looking good enough. Yeah. And yeah, something else that this show does so well is just really making you see Omni Man's perspective. They do such a good job of trying to sell Omni Man. He's a real character, he's a real person. He's conflicted. He has a lot of conviction, but he's also conflicted, hella conflicted. And as I said, this whole episode is literally trying to sell you on Omni Man's perspective, on his convictions. And they do such a great job of it. It's really emotionally resonant. Really, really great. We need to talk. Your daddy is a psycho alien. Nah, nah, nah. So, just about done with this panel. This panel. What's going on here? Let's go. That's it. So I like. Yeah, the show's epic. Really, really epic. Let's blow up our boy a little bit more. Great stuff. Yeah, I love how rich the world is as well. Just so much happening. It's not about just this one guy and his drama, but it's just such a complex world, Invincible, full of interesting characters. Really, really love it. So yeah, that's it for this panel, and that's it for this page. I'm happy to be done with it. So that's what the page looks like. Talking about the Canucka in his comic book. Some bullies approaching. Bullies attack them. These feds are watching, not doing anything. His hard work, his comic is being ripped up. You can see the CN Tower in the background. He's picking up his ripped comic book. Michael is rubbing his head. Clearly something's wrong. He's angry. Why did I come out here with you? Why did I let you talk me into coming out here? And, Don lashes back, like, hey, I got my ass kicked too. Stop being an asshole. But, oh, my head hurts. Oh, my God, what's happening? And Don's like, oh, Michael, you're okay. And so this is another characteristic of comic book writing, a concept called the 22-page cliffhanger. Meaning that every single page, the last panel of every page should entice the reader, should encourage the reader to turn the page. So you leave every page as a cliffhanger, right? So what's happening to Michael over here? Is he dying? What's going on? So that's the whole ambition of it. You want the reader to turn the page to find out what happens to Michael. And that goes for you folks as well at home watching. Thank you for joining me. And next time you'll see what happens next in this comic book. What happens to Michael? What's wrong with him? Did the beating he got from the Proudies do some brain damage? We'll find out. Thank you for watching. And I hope you liked Invincible. I loved it. Great stuff. Great stuff. And I'll catch you folks next time. We live in an invincible society. Peace out.